Welcome back to Southern Ghost Stories. I am the American Haunt Historian, Alan Searcy. So I've been telling you guys about this book, Hexed, I just dropped a few weeks ago. And it's about a voodoo doctor in Knoxville, and I keep teasing and keep talking about it. So I figured, why not just do a bonus episode and tell some really fun voodoo stories? I mean, it's October. You guys should be getting bonus episodes. That's what I think anyway. So let me just jump right into it. So Dr. Obie Lee Roddy, he was a man from Knoxville. And in the 1940s, he was known as a spiritual doctor or a voodoo man, conjure man. There's all kinds of different names for these voodoo doctors back in the day. But in the late 1940s, he operated out of a small apartment on North Central Street there in Knoxville. And locals sought him out for his help with love, luck, health, and even legal problems. His charm came from ritual and mystery, a blend of faith healing, folk magic, and some showmanship. For his clients, his methods weren't strange. They were salvation. So Roddy's clients believed he could influence court cases. So if you're going to be on trial for something, if you've done something wrong, he would advise you to get a piece of paper and write down the name of the judges, lawyers, and witnesses, maybe even some jury members if you knew they were. So he would instruct you to get the paper, put it in a bowl, and pour some sweet oil on the paper, and then burn it every morning at 9 a.m. So this would be something you do every day. So something else he would tell you to do, he would get you to write names on a piece of paper, and you get 2 bricks. You place one on the bottom, you put the other piece of paper on top of it, then you get another brick and place it sideways on top of the other brick in the paper. Then he would get you to get a bucket of ice and place it on top of the bricks and keep it there during the entire trial. So another version, and this one's kind of out there, he would tell you to go to the market or to the butcher shop and buy a beef tongue. You would slice it open, and you would put the paper inside the beef tongue, and then you would stick needles into the beef tongue with the paper stuck in the middle, and you'd pour vinegar on top of it. But you're not done. You got to freeze it. And right before the trial begins, you got to take it out of the freezer, let it thaw. You got to start a fire, and then you burn the beef tongue. So, not sure if that works, but that's what his instructions were. So for love, if you want to find love in Knoxville back in 1940, you could rub gunpowder and mix it with lemon juice. So if there's a young lady that you're courting or that you work with, you think she's attractive, you can get some gunpowder and some lemon juice and rub it on your neck. Another thing he would tell his clients to do, you get a bowl and you pour some coffee grounds in it and mix it with vinegar. You stir it up, and then you rub it all over your body before you meet with the person that you want to fall in love with you. Something else, this is kind of silly, you get a needle, and you have to lick the needle or get your saliva on the needle, and you have to stick it in that person's shoe. And supposedly after that, the needle or the saliva, whatever, that makes the person infatuated with you. Another thing he would instruct women to do, like if their man was cheating or if their man wasn't showing them any affection, get a necktie and wrap it around your leg under your dress and wear it all day long. So go about your day, forget it's there. But according to Dr. Roddy, if you're wearing this necktie around your thigh, your man will be just consumed by the thought of you. He won't even be able to think while he works. All he can think about is you. So, not sure if you want to try that, but that's what Dr. Roddy told his ladies to do. So for protection, so some people came to Dr. Roddy claiming that, they had a curse placed on them from a rival voodoo doctor. He instructed them to burn sulfur-soaked shoes in the backyard to create a ring of witch's fire for protection or to break the curse. Something else he instructed his people to do, he'd get you to get a handkerchief, tie it in knots over and over again until you couldn't tie any more knots, and then dip it in dirty water. And then you would let it dry, and you'd carry it in your pocket, and that would fend off any evil spirits or curses or hexes that were coming your way. So by 1947, Dr. Roddy, he had built a thriving business in Knoxville, Tennessee. According to accounts, he had 174 active clients, and some came as far away as Chattanooga and even Cincinnati. And you got to think, Cincinnati to Knoxville, that's a pretty good haul. It's got to be, 7-8 hours. That's a long drive, especially in 1940s when the cars weren't as dependable. But he had a client drive from Cincinnati to come visit him to get his advice. So in that year, 1947, Dr. Roddy earned $2,000. So that's roughly $35,000 in today's money. That's a pretty good chunk for a voodoo doctor. And he would charge up to $300 per case for his mystical treatments. Well, how he got his new clients was he was actually very clever. He had a network of maids that worked for wealthy families, and he paid them to bring in new clients by, getting in their ear and telling them, hey, this guy over here, you got a problem? Dr. Roddy can help you. And for every referral, Dr. Roddy was happy to pay him a commission. So it was a clever mix of spiritualism and marketing. Well, this is where it kind of all goes wrong for Dr. Roddy. So Dr. Roddy, by all accounts, he was a friendly, jovial guy, but his peaceful facade, it hid the growing tension with his upstairs neighbor, Alex Jefferson, a local piano teacher. So Jefferson, he would teach piano to children, and, Dr. Roddy's downstairs tending to his patients on the second floor. Upstairs, you have kids playing clunky piano music, when the Saints go marching in, or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and these kids are having a hard time and just butchering the songs. Dr. Roddy's getting really annoyed downstairs on the second floor. And it just after a while, it just grates on his nerves. And one day, Alberta, Alex Jefferson's wife, she found a mysterious powder sprinkled around her door. And she was just convinced it was from the voodoo doctor downstairs. And she was convinced it was cursed and accused Dr. Roddy of hexing them. And so soon after, her husband developed heart problems. And that just drove her nuts. She knew this guy downstairs was, hexing her. Well, on April 24th, 1948, Roddy knocked on her door because, they've been playing piano all day long. And Roddy's up there making small talk with Alberta, who's really leery of him anyway. And he's like, hey, can you please get the music down? And as he's making small talk with her, she catches him dropping some kind of powder on her floor. So she panicked. She slammed the door. And the next day, her husband, Alex, got really sick. Well, Alberta snapped. So Alberta confronted Roddy. She marched downstairs, knocked on his apartment door. Roddy answered the door, and a huge argument broke out between them. It got really heated. It was so heated, Alberta pulled out a pistol and shot him in the face at point-blank range. Dr. Roddy stumbled, he fell down the stairs, and he died instantly. So the police came and arrested her, and this is a huge trial back in the 1940s. Thousands of people came to the courthouse just to see what was going to happen to this lady who killed the voodoo doctor. So Alberta, she claimed self-defense. Her attorneys argued that she was trying to break a curse that was afflicting her and her husband. And by killing the voodoo doctor, she saved her family. So Dr. Roddy's wife, Lizzie, insisted Roddy was a herbal doctor. He's a peaceful guy. He wasn't malevolent. He wasn't even a witch doctor. He was a healer. So the judge and the jury, they see things for Lizzie Roddy's way. And the jury finds Alberta guilty of voluntary manslaughter. And she only got 3 years in jail, or 3 years in prison, which is kind of surprising. But even behind bars, Alberta still felt like she was stuck to this curse or this hex. Her health declined while she's incarcerated. Her husband, Alex, his health declined. I think he lost the use of one of his limbs. He got really sick. But sadly, their young daughter was hit by a truck while she was locked up in prison. So, I can kind of see why Alberta would think, this hex has followed her all the way to jail. So it's a really wild story, and I had a lot of fun with the new book, Hexed, just telling these stories and just digging into the characters, and it's a lot of fun. And I actually pitched it to a production company, in Toronto a while back, maybe make into a documentary or something. We'll see. But here's some more really wild stuff. So, have you ever heard of Frenier, Louisiana? Well, there was a voodoo doctor there, or an herbal doctor. The town, it was a tiny logging community, and it was right there on the edge of Lake Pontchartrain. And they didn't have a doctor. They had a lady named Julia Brown. She was a complex woman. She was a healer, a midwife. If you had a child that had a fever, you went to see Julia. If your cow was sick, you went to see Julia. You got her help. But for her help, it came with a price, respect. And as she grew older, Julia felt that respect was fading. And she felt like the community just kind of took her for granted. So as she got older, she would sit on the front steps of her little cabin, and she'd been singing this song, "One day I'm going to die, and I'm going to take all of you with me." So you can imagine seeing this kooky old woman sitting there on a rocking chair on the front porch singing this song. Well, it probably creeped me out. Well, Julia Brown died in 1915. And on the day of her funeral, September 29th, the whole town came out. Why? Some came to mourn. Most perhaps came out of fear to make sure the voodoo priestess was truly gone. And as they gathered, the sky began to change. It wasn't just a storm. It was a monster, a Category 4 hurricane that history now calls the New Orleans Hurricane of 1915. The winds hit the town at 125 miles per hour. A storm surge, a wall of water from the lake, over 12 feet high. The town of Frenier had no chance. The very people that gathered for the funeral were now fighting for their lives. The church, the homes, the road depot, where they sought shelter, all those buildings were splintered and torn apart by the wind and the water. So when the sun rose the next day, Frenier was gone, wiped from the map. Dozens were dead, their bodies scattered into the swampy marsh. Julia Brown was buried, but she hadn't gone alone. She took the whole town with her. Frenier was never rebuilt. The swamp reclaimed the land, and today it's known as Manchac Swamp, or as to those who know the stories, the Ghost Swamp. The victims of the storm are buried in a mass grave, lost somewhere in the mud. And it's said they never really left. They say you can hear disembodied screams carried on the wind. The final moments of the town is playing on a sad loop. Shadow figures have been seen darting between the moss-draped cypress trees. And the ghost of Julia Brown herself sometimes seen, still watching over her watery grave of the town that she cursed. So, yeah, it's a wild, crazy story down in Louisiana, and there's like Marie Laveau, they love that stuff down there. But I grew up in Middle Tennessee, and the voodoo story I grew up hearing, it was a total different thing altogether. So, just outside Gallatin, Tennessee, there's an old mansion, an old plantation called Fairvue. So, it belonged to a man named Isaac Franklin. See, Isaac Franklin was born in 1789 in Sumner County, Tennessee. He co-founded Franklin and Armfeld, which was the largest slave trading firm in the country. They operated out of Virginia and shipped thousands of enslaved individuals to Louisiana plantations. Well, he retired and he built that plantation in Gallatin around 1832. He was a very rich man, but that money came from a lot of suffering, a lot of misery. So in 1839, Isaac, he was 50 years old, and he married a 22-year-old lady named Adelicia Hayes. Adelicia Hayes, she was a national socialite. Her father was a judge, very prominent guy, ran, with Andrew Jackson, all those people. So what happens is Isaac goes to Louisiana for business, and he never comes home. 1846, he was in Louisiana, and his doctors called it stomach congestion. But now they believe it was food poisoning or some kind of just disease that he had. But he died suddenly, and his body was shipped back to Tennessee in a barrel of whiskey. So after his death, Adelicia, she's still a young woman. She inherits his empire, the plantations, the slave, all the blood money. Well, sadly, Isaac and Adelicia's children all start dying off. So they all died young. Victoria, she was 6 years old when she died in 1846. She died of croup. Adelicia Jr. died just a few days after Victoria. She was only 4 years old. Julius Caesar Franklin, he was born in 1844, only lived a few months. Sad, sad, sad. Emma, 1845, she was born, died 10 years later. So you have these 4 children that Isaac and Adelicia had, and they all died under the age of 10. So there's some kind of, they say it was a curse of Fairvue. Rumors spread that Franklin's fortune, born from slavery, carried a voodoo curse that some of those enslaved individuals placed upon him and his family. They placed hexes on him, Adelicia. It's really sad with the children. And what's crazy is Adelicia, she remarried. She goes to Nashville, takes all this blood money. She's one of the wealthiest women, not in Tennessee, but the entire country. So she gets settled in Nashville, and she remarries in 1849. I think that's just, 3 years after her husband dies. And she marries Joseph Acklin, a businessman from Alabama. And they built this opulent home called Belmont. Now it's home to the Belmont University. They don't talk about the slave money down there, but it's a prestigious college in Nashville. Very good music program. But when they moved there and they get married and they have children, I think they had several children, but her first 2 children died. So 2 children also dying. So there's this curse of this blood money, of this slave money. It's following Adelicia, in Gallatin and Nashville. It's just like, it's like sad with these children, but it's what you get, I guess, when you're selling slaves all over the country. So yeah, this voodoo stuff, man, it's wild and it's weird. I invite you to check out Hexed on Amazon.com. It's free to read if you have Kindle Unlimited. It's also on Audible as well. I think there's a way where you can read stuff on Audible for free. I think you guys sign up for it. And don't forget to come see me. Scarefest, I'll be at Lexington, Kentucky this weekend. Scarefest, man, it's the largest horror convention in the Southeast, or one of them. This year, Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund, he'll be signing autographs, and I promise you, if you come buy a book from me, my autograph will be so much cheaper than his. I think he charges $180 for an autograph. You buy a book, I'll sign it for free. So anyway, Ghost of Gallatin, the tour date's still available. I got some tours coming up next weekend after. I can do a private tour anytime. You have groups for more, hit me up, ghostofgallatin.com. Southern Ghost Stories Live. Man, we're doing a live show at the Palace in Gallatin, Tennessee. Only $5. Got a special guest. We telling some ghost stories. Talk about some Middle Tennessee hauntings. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that one. So don't forget to subscribe, and please leave us a review. Those are so important, and I appreciate everyone who takes a few moments to do that for me. The regular show will be updated in a couple days. I'm going to the studio tonight, so it should drop Friday or Saturday, maybe Monday. It's kind of whenever I get the audios, when I try to post it the next day. Wheels turn slow at that level. But anyway, thank you guys. Hope you guys enjoy this one, and I'll see you soon.